Hi, Leroy here. Today we are discussing style mode on the Verselab. This is going to be a bit of a longer video, not because it's necessarily complicated, but there is a lot of ground to cover. So we've just started a brand new project. Let's go into sequence, part of the workflow here, and we'll go make sure we're in note mode for the pads. The first thing that we should know is that there are two different ways that style mode works. Notice we have the tracks, they're divided into drum tracks and melodic tracks, right? As we know, you can put a melodic instrument like a synth or something on one of these drum tracks, right? Let's try it. Let's go to the snare here. Here's our snare. Let's just load up a synth. We'll push the value knob. We'll go to presets. We'll just find something, I don't know, synth lead, right? You totally can do that. There are limitations. We're not going to get into all of them right now, but there are things that the drum tracks won't do, the melodic tracks will do. And one of them is in style mode. No matter what kind of instrument is on these drum tracks, be it a kit track, or a drum sample, or a preset from the synths, it will always work the same way in style mode. So we're going to start there on these, in the drum tracks first. So how we get to style mode is first you select a track. For right now, let's go to the hi-hat. We're going to make this easy to listen to. Oops, sorry. It's asking if I want to discard the sound we just put on. That's fine. We don't need that. So anyway, we'll exit from that hi-hat. We're in a hi-hat, right? Just so we have a sound to work with. So you hit over here in pad mode. We're in note mode, and we go to style mode instead. And now the pads turn blue. By the way, that is a drum track thing. These 4 drum tracks will always be blue. So what is this now? What does this do? Before we get there, let's go back and remind ourselves what SUBstep, the SUBstep divisions do. Go back to note mode. Let's just put this hi-hat just on a single step. We're going to hit the hi-hat and then hit the step. That's it, 1, right? It just plays it on 1 step. These are 16th notes right now. It plays a 16th note. If we hit edit and the step, it shows you the note, it shows you the number of the note, it shows you how long it is, right? Standard stuff. If we scroll the value knob over, this little arrow lets us know there are more options. We've got this sub thing here, right? What is this sub thing? These are subdivisions of this specific step, of the step. The steps right now are 16th notes, so it divides the 16th notes. If they're 8th notes, it would divide the 8th notes. If they were 32nd notes, it would divide the 32nd notes. It takes whatever this is, whatever the step is, they're 16th notes by default, divides them up. When it's off, it just plays it as it is. If you move it, it starts at 1/2. It divides it in half. So check this out. What we're going to do, we're going to put 4 of these notes. Whoops, we got to exit first. Sorry. We're going to put 4 of these, right? It's just playing them equally. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 1 beat. So if we go to the 4th one, edit, hit the 4th step. What if we just change that? Set the SUBstep to 1/2. What is that going to do? Let's listen. It divides this in 2, divides it in half. What if we scroll again? 1/3. What does that do? It divides it into 3. Instead of being 1 note, it's 3. Right? And we have several in here. I think we have 9 or something in here, right? They're all a little bit different. So I have, in the description, I've put a link to this file so you can take a look at this on your own if you would like. But I have gone through and I have, in the notation you would see in a DAW, like the piano roll, I have listed what these things do. So just like we have here with the 3 steps that are just the same as they always are and just normal. And the 4th step is what that SUBstep division is. I've done the same thing here and I've labeled them too. The 4th step is the one that's different and I've labeled them. If you look at the side, you've got off and then half, third, flam, exactly the same as in the SUBstep divisions here. And I've noted here in the notation you're going to see in your DAW, in the piano roll, what that would look like. The 1/2 divides it into 2, the 1/3 divides it into 3, etc. I've also taken the time to do that in music notation. Sorry, it's a bit close here, but I've done it in music notation as well, and that's also saved in the file that's in the description that you can download, so you can see what these do. That's what each of them does to the notes. This is assuming that, a quarter note is the step, and half would divide it into 2, a third would divide it into 3, etc. Anyway, so that's how that works. That is going to be important now because we're going to talk about what style does, and this is important to style. So let's exit out of here. We're just going to clear these steps so we have nothing playing. Now, we're just back at this hi-hat. We're going to go into style mode, Again, blue, this is for the drum tracks. So what the drum tracks do is they play those SUBstep divisions. So if you hit 1, it's just normal. Just like if we were in note mode and we did this, right? That's what this is doing. It's as if the SUBstep divisions are off and it's just playing them equally. D, 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 D. This one is the next option, the half. It plays it twice as fast. D, 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 D. This is the third. So these go in order. And if you forget what that is, if you don't know what's going on, you can hold down one of these pads in style mode and then push a step to record it. And then it will play. And if you don't know what it is, hit edit, hit the step. Notice up here in sub, again, if it's on this screen, just scroll the value knob to the right. Sub is off, right? Exit. We're going to clear that step. Let's hold down 2 and then put it on this step. Edit. Sub 1/2. It's exactly the same order as if you just did this yourself in the SUBstep division menu. Let's try one that's a little bit faster. Let's try this one, right? What is that? So fast. Notice too, these pads are different colors when you do this. Let me show you. Right? See how they're getting lighter and lighter as they get faster and faster? Okay. Anyway, so let's just put this one here, this really fast one. Let's look at what that is. Edit, hit the step. Notice the sub 1/4, right? That's how this is working. When you start going up, there are only 16 of these. So when you start going up, it starts changing a little bit. This one, notice when we did that, it added 2 steps, right? So we hold down 5, it's got 2 steps. What is that doing? Again, hit edit, hit the first step. The first step is playing sub 3/1. Hit the second step. Second step is playing sub 3/2. It's given us 2 steps. It's divided both of them into 3 and is playing them at different rates. Interesting. So the first 8, that's what these do. You can even hit the 8 here. Oops, gotta exit, sorry. Hit 8. Again, it's just playing with these SUBstep divisions. So these ones are phrases. They're one measure. Each of these are one measure. So you hold it down, push the step. Now notice, boom, all of these lit up. See all those light up? It's taking the exact same things in here with the SUBstep divisions, but it's putting them together like building blocks in different orders to make a phrase, to make an entire measure. So again, let's clear this out here. Let's try another one. Let's try 14. What does 14 do? Whoops, turn that off first. Look at that. Look at that. And again, it's just taking these building blocks and changing them in different orders, using them like Legos or something to make a pattern. Right? Let's listen to that. That is all style mode does in the drum tracks. All it's doing is making rhythms. And again, you can play it live as well. Let me exit out of there. Sorry, you have to exit to clear steps. So you could say, have something playing, like let's go to the kit track. Let's go back to note. We'll just put a simple, kick on there, right? So we have something to listen to. You could be in style mode and do it live. Right now, if you play it back, fair play. You could totally do this live. You can also do it again by just doing the steps. If you want to do it more mechanically, you can just hold down the thing you want to do, tell it where you want that to go, and Bob's your uncle or whatever. That works just as well. So, like I said, these first 8 are just using the basic building blocks. The next 8 they're each a single measure of these patterns put together to make some sort of, drum pattern for you to play with. Ta-da! That's how that works. It works that way with every one of the melodic track or one of the drum tracks, even if it's a synth. So let's take a look at that just to show that. If we go, say, to snare, we'll pull up a preset. We will just do a random sound. Now, whoops, I did not save that, sorry. I do that all the time. There we go. Okay, so on the snare track, it's one of the drum tracks. It's on snare, but it's a synth now, right? If you go to style mode, it's doing the same thing with just a single note. Whatever note you have selected here, that's the note it's going to use. Right? Again, because it's a drum track, it'll only do rhythmic stuff. So now let's look at the melodic tracks and see what that does. The melodic tracks are these three, the bass, instrument 1, instrument 2. So we'll go back to note mode just to... Oh, it should be noted too, when we're going into the melodic tracks, we're going to go to instrument 1, just by default it's org bell, right? You don't have to use the chromatic keypad. If you go to style mode now, it's purple. Melodic is purple, not blue. These are half steps, right? It's exactly the same as in note mode, right? But if you're in note mode and you hit edit note and you change the key or the scale, so say we go to just a major scale, right? We've now changed the scale, so now the scale and the pads for style mode are going to change as well. So, right? Just FYI, you can use that to your advantage. Just to keep things simple for now, I'm going to leave it in chromatic mode, because that's how it is by default. So anyway, go back into style mode. You're on track 1 in one of the melodic tracks, doesn't matter which one, and we're in style mode. So what happens in style mode now? Now, instead of being just rhythmic variations, we're in an arpeggiator. We're making arpeggios. What are arpeggios? Arpeggios are just playing notes in a chord, but breaking them up. So, for instance, if you're playing a major chord, it sounds like this, right? An arpeggio could be something like, or you're just breaking up a chord. That's all this mode is doing, is taking notes you're playing, and it's going to break them up, and you can put them, on your step sequencer to play by themselves. So let's look at a couple of options. Go back into style mode. If you hit edit and style, we have so many options. First, scroll your value knob down to hold and turn that to on. Here's what that's going to do. If you play something with it off, it's going to play, but as soon as you let go, it's gone, right? If you turn hold on, it's going to play it, and then you can sit here and you can mess with your options while it's playing. It can be very, very useful. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to stop that, by the way, just push shift or style, either one will work. That'll stop your arpeggio from playing. So right now, we're going to move this, we're going to go all the way up in this list. We were at hold, I believe. Yeah, hold. So just go all the way up. We're going to change style to 1. And variation to 1. That's going to make it easiest right now just to see what everything is doing, okay? I should mention before we go any farther, let's put this on hold mode on. Good, it's on. Okay. So before 1.8, this worked differently, and it was a little better, I think. But now, if you have something playing and you push like the style button, it just stops. And here's why that's a problem. When you hit edit and style, again, if you go to the top, you'll notice it has style, and then the next option is variation. Style, variation, right? So you got style 1, variation 1. You have like 12 variations for each style. It's just a variation of whatever that style is, and it has a lot of different styles, but they're just numbers. You have no idea what they are, right? So that can be a little bit frustrating. If you hit exit, if you start something playing, oh, sorry, again, this is the problem with 1.81. So 1.81, if you hit style, it just stops playing. But if you hold style and then move the value knob, turn it, these are now all listed with names. Look at this. Style 1-11, 1-12. They're all named, which is great. It's way more descriptive. Still doesn't tell you exactly what it's doing, but it gives you a lot more feel of what's happening in this than just these numbers. Unfortunately, the numbers here don't exactly correlate with the number of style and variation. You'd think this would be style 13, variation 3. It's usually off by at least a couple. So you'll probably be in the ballpark if you use that, but it's not going to be the same. So I like to scroll through these, while the arp is playing. But again, the problem is if you have an arp going, the second you hit style, it stops playing. So what can you do? As of 1.8, 1.8x, 1.80, 1, 2, you have to hold style, then get the arpeggio going, then still holding style, now you can change it in real time. Okay, because we're doing eighth notes, it's not very interesting. Were there 16th notes we could listen to? Yeah. So you can see it changes, it has names. Anyway, it's great. It'll keep going until you tell it to stop. But like I said, for now, we're going to stay with style 1. and variation 1, because the other options we have to look at are going to be much easier to explain with something this simple. All this does is play one note per eighth note. So listen. It's doing exactly the same thing as if you were in note mode and you played. That's what this is doing. Right? That's it. Very simple. So let's go ahead and look at style. In the style mode, edit style, and look at what else we have. Let's start another arpeggio so we can hear. So we're just going to start the simple major arpeggio, 1, 5, 8 if you're in chromatic mode. If you're in major scale, it's going to be 1, 3, 5. Anyway, so scroll down from variation. The next one, or the first one is style, then variation. And again, changing these will change what it's doing to these notes. Right? Each of these styles is slightly different, and then each of the variations changes that just a little bit. It'll change where the accents are. It may add or remove some notes. So for now, we're just going to go style 1, and we're going to go variation 1. Okay, so the next option is motif. What does motif do? The first one is up. So listen. It goes boom, boom, boom. So that doesn't help you at all. So it's right now we're playing these 3 notes, so it's going to play it from the bottom up. Do, 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 do. Right? Just like if you were in note mode. If you were in note mode, it's just like this. That's up. And you don't have to play 3 notes. You can play more. Right? If you play those 4 notes, that's what it would sound like. Let's take a look. Okay, so we understand that's up. It takes whatever notes you're playing and just plays them up. Motif down is just the opposite. If you play these same 3 notes, instead of going, it's going to go. Let's take a listen. Fantastic. We have an understanding, I think. Motif up and down does this. So if you have 3 notes, it goes up, and then back down. That's the end of it. And then it would restart over here. So it'll play back until it gets to the first note. If you have 4 notes, that would be the pattern. Then it would restart at the first one. Let's take a listen again. So this is up and down. Da, da, da. That's the end. Da, 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 da. And if we had 4 notes, it has to take a second to recalculate. Da, 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 da. That's the end. Da, 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 da. That's the end. Okay? This one, whatever notes you play, it'll play them in a random order every single time. You could have the same note several times in a row. You could have a note that doesn't play very often. Completely random. I don't know how useful that is, but maybe it's useful to you. I don't know. This next one is note order. So whatever order you play the notes in, that's the order it's going to play in. So if you just play up, it's going to play up. This is just like up. But if you play it down, top note first, there's the start. This is important too because it's not just the order it's playing in, it's the order that that the accents are in. There are accents in here, which we're going to get to in a second. So you could also, you can literally play in any order you want, and it'll play it back in that same order every time. Next is glissando. I have struggled to try and find a purpose for this, but I can't. You play 2 notes, and it'll play every single note between those 2 notes up and down. So if we're in note mode, go back to note mode, if you play, say, these 2 notes, it's going to do this. I don't know how useful that is, but let's take a listen. So you play the 2 notes you want it to glide between. Takes a second for it to catch up. Notice it's just half steps. Again, I have no idea where or how this would be useful. And the thing is, with these arpeggios, you could also put these in manually in note mode as well. They're really just good for getting some ideas, right? Anyway, chord is the next mode. So instead of playing individual notes, it's going to play all the notes you play all at the same time, as if you're doing this. It's going to play it in the rhythm of the arpeggio you've selected, but it's going to play all the notes together. Let's listen. So, all it does is play all the notes you've played. Auto 1. This one is interesting. This just affects the where the accents are. So if you do auto 1, it's going to accent the low note. Bum. So it's playing up and down, but the lowest note is what's going to accent. So listen. Ba, dee, da, da, ba. Right? It accents the lowest note. Auto 2 is going to play exactly the same way, but it's going to accent the highest note you play. Hear that highest note getting hit hard? Ba, da, dee, da. Plays exactly the same thing. It plays that up and down motif that we were hearing before, but it highlights whatever the highest note you played is. The final one is phrase. This one's interesting. You don't play multiple notes. You play one note, and it's going to play a phrase just starting at that note. So if you just hold one note, it can switch the note while it's playing. It's interesting, and again, if you change the style that you're working with or the variation, it'll change the pattern of that as well. That's kind of an interesting one. I like that one a little bit. So for now, again, let's just go back to the top to up. Up is simple to understand. We know it's going to go from the bottom note to the top note. What other options do we have? Velocity. Okay, velocity just means how loud is it going to play it? If you barely touch the pads, oh, it doesn't. I don't have that on right now. Sorry. You can set this to be low velocity. Everything's quiet. You can set it to be mid velocity, high velocity, or real. Real means it's going to play however loud you put it in. Right now, I have this set to be at 100 velocity all the time on the pads. They're not set to be velocity sensitive, so it's not going to listen to my velocity. But at real, it's going to play whatever velocity you play the keys at. If you hit them hard, it's going to play them loud. If you hit them soft, it's going to play them soft. Octave range. This is an interesting one. So currently it's playing one octave. So if we play these three notes, it's going, right? If we put it octave plus 1, it's going to go up and play another octave as well. Let me change the mode on the keys here, the pads, so we can see this. We're going to change it to major. So right now, when I was playing this on the chromatic, it's going to be this on the major scale. Now, by putting this up an octave, octave plus 1, instead of doing this, it's going to play another octave above that as well. So it's going to sound like this. Let's listen. It takes a second for it to catch up. There we go. Now it's going to start again. Right? Octave 2 does the same thing, but it's going to do 2 octaves. So it's going to go 1. It's going to keep going again. We don't have the pads to do it here, but octave 2 is going to add another octave on top of that. Same thing with octave 3. If you go negative, if you play, say you play here, it's going to go down an octave. So let's do this a different way. Let's say we're playing here, right? Instead of playing, I don't know what you'd expect, but you're playing this, but what it's going to play is this. So it's going to go down one octave and then play up through the notes you played. So I don't know how useful that is either, but there you go. What's next? Okay, this is the accents. So if you listen, when you're in style mode, there are notes that are hit harder, notes that are hit softer, louder and less loud. If you turn that down, they're going to all sound the same. D, 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 right? If you turn it all the way up, they're going to be as accented as it can be. D, 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 D. You will notice differences in how hard the key is hit. If you hit something harder or softer, it emphasizes certain beats. Can be very useful. I typically just leave it there because you usually want to hear the accents. Shuffle rate. Okay, this is going to get a little bit complicated. So when someone talks about shuffle, they're typically talking about breaking 2/8 notes into 3 triplets and then playing the first eighth note as 2 triplets and the second triplet as 1 triplet. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is in music notation. Standard, when someone says, let's swing that. Shuffle and swing are the same, by the way. They're synonyms. You might see this on a piece of sheet music. It's saying when you have 2 eighth notes, play it like this. Play it as if it's triplets, and the first triplet, the first is 2 triplets, and the second eighth note is 1 triplet. That's how you'll typically see that. There is another way you'll sometimes see swing or shuffle, and it's like this. See, this is the standard. This is the eighth notes how they would normally be. This is swing or shuffle. And sometimes they mean this, but they'll notate it. This is called a dotted notation. And this means to divide these 2 eighth notes into 4 notes and then play the first note for 3 of those, the second one for 1. So let me show you what that means. So typically, if you have two eighth notes, right, divide something into 2 notes, it's going to be D, da, 1 and 2 and 3 and, right? That's straight. If it's swung, you're dividing into 3. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. But instead of playing it like that, you're going to have the first note be on 2 of those and the second note be the last one. So it's going to be da, 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 da. That's a swing feel. The dotted feel, you're going to divide it into 4 notes. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and But the first note is going to be 3 of those, and the last note is going to be the 4th one of that division. So it's going to be dee da dee da. So instead of being dee da, it's dee da. It's kind of like a galloping sound, right? So anyway, shuffle, how that works at 50%, you're saying each note is 50%. It divides the note, the step, it divides the step into 2 pieces and they're equal. If you go up to 66, that's what is commonly referred to as swing. Or shuffle. Well, the shuffle is the rate of swing. But this is when they say swing it, this is typically what they mean. It'll divide it into those triplets I was talking about, into 3 pieces. The first piece is 2 of those, the last piece is 1, right? If you want the dotted feel, it's going to be at 75, because you're breaking it into 4 pieces, and the first note is 3 of those pieces. So let's hear what that does. Let's just play our arpeggio, leave it at 50. 50, again, is the default. That is even. You can also go below 50, by the way, and that'll shuffle it the other way. So at 33, it's going to make the first note, a third of it, and then the last one 2/3. Anyway, you don't see that very often, but let's leave this at 50. Let's hear what it does. So here's what it sounds like at 50%. Nothing. We're going to move this up, but notice that nothing changes. Listen. So you're thinking, why is nothing changing? It's doing literally nothing, right? And here's why. Let's stop this. The shuffle rate divides up a specific rhythmic notation, a specific rhythmic division. And if we go down one option in this menu, the next one is shuffle resolution. Shuffle resolution is set to 16th notes. Each of these is a 16th note. The problem is the arpeggio we're playing now is playing 8th notes. So there's nothing for it to shuffle. This will only shuffle 16th notes right now. So if we change this to 8th notes, now this will shuffle 8th notes, which is what we have. So it'll depend on the pattern you're using, because the shuffle and swing is specifically dependent on divisions of notes. So here, let's listen now. Now if we move this up, listen. Why is that still not working? Hold on a second. Not sure why that's not. Are we not in 8th notes, maybe? Hold on. Oh, maybe we have to restart it. Hold on. No, we shouldn't have to do that. All right, let's change this variation to see if we can find something here that'll work for us. There we go. Okay. Again, it's dependent on the style and the variation you're using specifically. Let's go back down here to shuffle rate. And again, if we had the shuffle rate set to 16ths, this probably isn't going to do anything. Yeah, that doesn't change this at all. Because again, what we're hearing are 8th notes. So change this to 8ths. Now listen as we move the shuffle rate, listen how it changes. Right? Hear the little stagger? So that's how shuffle works. It can be very, very useful. You just have to know what the pattern is doing, or it's not going to do anything for you at all. Okay, last one, chord mode. What does chord mode do? Let's play a chord here. Okay, it's playing all the notes. Fantastic. If we move that to chord mode on, why is it not doing anything different? It's doing exactly the same thing. Here's why. This is not talking about this arpeggio right here. What this is talking about is what happens when you're in chord mode. Before we do that, let's turn this off real quick. Let's look at motif again. I missed something in motif. Oh no, I didn't. No, we talked about this. We talked about a chord, right? Yeah, chord. Chord will play the chords. That's where we'll play all the notes as a chord together. This chord mode is not that. This is something different. Again, if you play the notes, it's going to separate them, still separates them. This is for chord mode. So with chord mode off, if we go to Shift, hold down Shift and push the style, which goes to chord mode, it's playing all the chords, right? It plays them as chords, just as you would expect. But back in style mode, you can again hit Edit Style, chord mode on. Now if we go to chord mode, it's going to break these chords up into an arpeggio as if you played these in style mode. It's going to break them up into arpeggios instead. So again, if we turn chord mode off, oops, turn chord mode off, why is that? There are some really weird errors with how this works. All right, some of it is hold mode, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but so with chord mode off, it'll just play the chords. With chord mode on, again, because we're still in chord mode, I think we have to be out of chord mode to change this. So go back to style, turn chord mode on, go back to chord mode. Now it's going to break them up. It's not going to play those chords, it's going to break them up into arpeggios. All right, there is one more thing I want to show you that is really, really interesting. So we know that if we're in this mode, in style mode, in a melodic track, it's going to break it up into an arpeggio, right? So all it's doing is, let's put this back into our simple style here. All right, so it's just playing these three notes. Do, 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 do. Oh, I forgot we were in major. Here we go. D, D, D. So if we go to note mode, it's playing this. Right? It's playing these pads. We can kind of use this and an error in 1.8 to try some interesting things. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start something. Let's turn off hold mode for now. Turn off hold mode. And so again, say we want, these three things to play. Right? While we're in style mode, if we then hit something on a drum track, say the kit, and then we press some pads, now it's playing that as if it were playing these. Right? Because that's what this would do in style mode. In style mode, on the melodic track, it's going to play those in sequence. Boom, 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 right? Let's turn hold back on. All right, so what it's playing is these three pads, right? If you just go into kit mode, right? Let's turn these off, sorry. Right? If you go into style mode now, all it's going to do is play whatever pad is selected. So here we have the kick selected. So it's just going to play the kick in those style modes. But again, if we're in style mode for the melodic stuff, for the arpeggios, we have that playing, and then we go to kit track. The first thing we do, it's going to do that. So now it's playing these pads separately, and we can use that to our advantage. But the problem is, once you stop this, the next thing you play, I mean, when you go back to note mode, if you play anything, right? You've gone back to note mode, that changes the style changes it back to this. But while you're waiting for that, just, get something playing in here, in the melodic mode, go back to your kit track. You can select, several pads. It'll start playing that arpeggio pattern with these pads. Maybe useful, interesting to play with anyway. The problem is, unless you're already in style mode, you can't change the style mode, because once you do, it stops playing. Let's try this again. See, it already changed back. So let's go here, right? We're good, we're in melodic mode. Hold down style. We'll just go for these 4 pads. Again, so even if you push style, it gets you out of that mode. So all you can do is in your melodic tracks, you can set a style that you like, that you want to try out, that you think might be interesting for the drums. Okay, we got something that's kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and go to the kit track now. Maybe interesting. The problem is, again, you can't change that now. Because if you change it to anything, it goes back into, see, now we're changing this in the ARP style, but now it's back to rhythmic mode. I really wish they would allow us the choice of what mode for style we want. I wish it wouldn't depend on which of these tracks you were on. I wish you could select that. This could be very interesting to use, but at least for now, you have to decide how you want to use it. You could, however, put this kit track on one of the melodic tracks, and then you could do this and change the styles, right? I mean, there are options around it. Anyway, I hope that's helped a little bit to understand how style works, how it works differently on drum tracks and melodic tracks. And I hope you'll download in the link below in my description the breakdown of what the SUBstep divisions do. Because again, those SUBstep divisions can be very useful, and just knowing what they are can help you out in a jam, I guess. Leave comments and suggestions below. Thank you for coming. I hope you keep learning and make something interesting today. Bye, guys.